So as I said, thanks again for joining us, National Policing Cybersecurity webinar series. This one is a real fascinating one in conjunction with Tesco's and Cygenta and the NCSC's CyberFirst scheme. And as you can see, there's a lot of images blocked up here, and Keith from the National Cybersecurity Centre is going to explain why that is. Keith.
Hello everybody. Yes, my name's Keith. I'm in charge of the bursary scheme for CyberFirst. CyberFirst is a programme funded under the National Cybersecurity Programme, government funded, and its purpose is to raise cybersecurity awareness and skills across a variety of different programmes of which a bursary is one. Part of the reason why we've got to hide our faces is that there is a potential that some of the students that have been talking today could end up working within the intelligence community. The scheme is UK-wide, so they could end up working somewhere completely irrelevant or separate to the intelligence community, but because there's that potential, we can't broadcast their faces over the internet for obvious reasons. So yeah, hopefully it won't take away from the valuable knowledge and experiences they can share today.
Thanks, Keith. So we don't just want this to be a session where you're just sitting there listening. We'd like for you to get involved as well. And you have a few options to do that. Again, if you haven't used Zoom before or been on one of these sessions before, I'm just going to talk you through how you can do that. So if you look down the bottom of your screen now, you'll see a Q&A and a chat box. If you click onto that chat box, it will open up a sidebar for you. And within there, both myself and Keith are going to be answering any of your questions in relation to this series or in relation to the bursary scheme or the CyberFirst scheme itself. So if you have any questions in relation to that, put those into that chat box. You'll also see that we've got some information there on our speakers, our chair, Dr. Jessica Parker, and lots of other information there for you. You also have an option to ask the panelists some questions yourself and get their opinions on any questions that you may have. So if you click the Q&A button, you'll see that it opens up a questions and answer box where you can type your question in. Now, if you already see a question on there that you like, click the thumbs up button and that will give it a thumbs up vote. The more votes a question gets, the higher up the list it will go, and therefore the more likely there is of that question being answered. However, I would like to remind you all that this is obviously a policing webinar, and as you can see from the top of the screen, it is being recorded. So as is the rule with the internet, if you don't want something on there recorded forever, please don't put it on there in the first place. Having said that, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Jessica Parker, and I hope you all have a great session.
Thanks, Richard, and thanks, Keith. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to this National Policing Cybersecurity webinar, Out with the Old and In with the New. So I'm Dr. Jessica Parker, co-CEO of Cygenta. We are a small cybersecurity consultancy, and I'm especially delighted to be involved in this because we're big supporters of the CyberFirst scheme and of working with schools and universities, particularly around the UK. But I do feel like quite an imposter today because given the topic, I'm definitely on the old side. Don't worry though, I'm just here asking questions of the people that we all actually really want to hear from, the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. So if you're bored of listening to the current world of cybersecurity specialists, if you want to hear what the next generation actually thinks, wants and needs, then you're definitely in the right place. Huge thanks to Griffin, to CyberFirst and Tesco for making this possible, and to our panelists. So we'll be here for the next hour and I'll be asking questions. I've got so many questions I want to ask the panelists, but as Richard said, we're also very keen to take questions from you all. So please do share your questions as we go through and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So that is enough from me. Let's meet our panelists. And first off, I'm going to ask our panelists just to really quickly introduce themselves and say maybe why they're happy to be involved in this webinar. And I would like to start, if I may, with Adam.
Hi there, I'm Adam, as Dr. Baker said. I'm a second year student. I'm studying computing. I came here today because it's I wanted to contribute my opinion to help, the next generation who want to follow after cyber but aren't too sure about it. My main interests are in web security and adversarial behaviors. I think that's quite brief, isn't it?
Thanks, Adam. That's great. I'll move over to Gurpreet now, if I may.
Hi everyone, my name's Gurpreet. I'm a first year student and I'm studying computer science with a year in industry. My main area of interest in cybersecurity centers around cryptography and penetration testing. I'm here today to talk about where I believe the industry can go in the future and how young people would like to contribute and perhaps make meaningful change.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And last but not least, over to Daisy.
Hi, I'm Daisy. I'm currently studying computer forensics and I'm currently on a placement year and going back to my third year in September, hopefully. And my main area of interest is clearly computer forensics, hence why I'm studying it. But within that, it's more so mobile forensics I'm interested in going into. And I just wanted to join this today just to encourage the younger generation to get involved more and just to make people aware of the different aspects of cyber. It's not just a straight path, it's loads of different avenues you can go down.
Very true. Brilliant. Thank you all. So already we can tell, I think, from our intros that we're going to have a great discussion. What brilliant reasons to be getting involved with this webinar. And I'm sure you're all going to have great things to share. So I'm going to open with a pretty general question. And I'm going to go first to Gurpreet, if I may, and ask what attracted you to consider a career in the industry? What is it about cybersecurity that made you think, yeah, that's maybe what I want to do?
Well, obviously I was pretty interested in computer science to start with, but my main concern with living in this digital age was where I could take my degree. And one thing I hadn't really thought of until I found the bursary scheme was going into cybersecurity. And I realized that there's lots of opportunity for growth in this sector because for any modern business and or individual looking to protect their information, cybersecurity touches everyone. And I realized that it was a very good way for me to find something challenging for me to do because I really like that kind of puzzle solving and exciting career. So that was kind of what attracted me to a career in cybersecurity. And I also wanted to try and become almost like a mentor for younger women my age as well, who might be looking at this industry thinking, oh, I could never go into something like this, but showing them that it is possible to go into something like this and explore your full potential.
Brilliant. What great reasons. So you could see there was potential for growth. You could see maybe investment, obviously with the bursary, you could see that this is something that's going to be growing, something that's relevant to everyone. And that sort of ambition to really sort of be a role model is really brilliant. Daisy, do you have anything to add as to what really sort of attracted you to consider cybersecurity?
Yeah, so all throughout school, my strongest points were computing and maths, and for me I was more interested in the careers that computing could offer me more so than maths, and so really from the end of my GCSEs I was really interested in the industry. And then going through college, I started looking at university courses, and then that's when I came across the scheme as well. And so that was obviously a bit of a selling point as well, that kind of investment and reassurance that was potentially behind me. But particularly for me, in regards to computer forensics, I was just interested in how technology can play a part in day-to-day crime, not necessarily just computer-based crime. And so the way it can affect any sort of crime that happens, I was just really interested in the pathways it could take me, kind of thing. But yeah, and I just wanted to use my knowledge I think I have to help people, and it's perfect opportunity to do so, really.
That's great. It's a theme I often hear, I think, and one I can definitely relate to is wanting to help people. And you've really echoed, I think, what Gurpreet said around the fact that technology is part of everything now. So like you say, it's part of so many crimes, whether they're kind of computer focused or not. So what absolutely brilliant reasons. And finally, Adam, you are a slightly more mature student. So I'd be really interested to know kind of, did you change career path? And if so, sort of what has led you to take that change?
I'd say my reasons are much the same as Gurpreet's and Daisy's. I chose cyber because it gives you the opportunity to, well, saying it's cliched, but to contribute to keeping society safer. And it's an exciting field to be in. Our lives are structured around technology, so cyber affects each of us directly or indirectly, assuming you're not a hermit living off the grid in the Scottish Highlands. And there's a large skill gap for cyber skills in the UK. So I'd like to play my part in helping to fill that gap. And I think it's got good job safety and it's decent prospects too. Yeah,
absolutely. And what is it that excites you about sort of being in cybersecurity, Adam?
I think it's the depth of the field, where you have to constantly learn throughout your career and apply yourself and be on your toes. I think that's what appeals to me the most.
And Gurpreet, you mentioned kind of the challenge as well, and that was one of the things that attracted you. Is that what you find most exciting, that it's a challenging sort of discipline, or are there other factors as well?
I definitely think that plays a huge factor in why I chose this career, because I know that with my kind of personality, I love a good challenge as anyone. I'm always the kind of person who will pick up a crossword or any kind of puzzle solving thing, and just having that kind of challenge, it's something that I really look for in a career. So that's why I thought going to something like cybersecurity, where technology is always changing, people are finding new ways to commit crimes, anything like that, it would have just kept everything more interesting. And it's just something to clearly learn from every day. So that's why I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. You're never bored working in this industry, and it's great to always be challenged and to always find something different if you want to, something different to look at. Daisy, is there anything that the others haven't mentioned that sort of really excites you about cybersecurity?
Yeah, alongside like the challenges it offers and stuff, I just find the skills that you need to be successful in the industry are really interchangeable between different aspects of the industry as well. Because so for me, I'm focusing more so on the forensic side, but CyberFirst as a whole is more so security, but I haven't found that site disadvantaged me at all. And especially while being on my placement this year, I found that there's lots of different career paths I can go down in cyber, and it's not like learning a whole new mindset and skill set. I've still got the basic skills required in cyber to be successful, whatever path I want to go down. So it might be in 10, 15 years, I might choose a slightly different career route, but still within cyber, and it would be fine to do so.
Yeah, that's very true. I think this discipline really benefits from transferable skills, and it's very broad, but one thing that you learn in one part can be really applicable to something else later on. So that's a really fantastic point. And have you identified sort of any people that inspire you, or any technologies that inspire you? And I'm going to ask that of you again, Daisy, if I may.
I think if I had to pinpoint one person, I'd really struggle, because just during university and like on placement, every person I come across in cyber, it sounds so cliche, but like I aspire to be like them, because obviously as a student you're constantly learning, and being in a workplace of people who are already establishing themselves, it's just really important to recognize the skills they have. So for me, I think I just constantly look up to my peers around me, and I think it's quite good to do that because you're bouncing off people constantly. But I think in general as well, outside of my placement, I think women in cyber is a really good focal point, because there's not many women in cyber. So for women in cyber to be one of them is just, I think, is really good to look up to other women in there to be like, oh, I can do it. I am good as everybody else in the field, kind of thing. And I think that's it has been going back a while back. Like in World War II, there was loads of women work at Bletchley Park. So I think that was like the starting point in some sense. So we have come a long way from then, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think in general, just women in cyber as a whole, I think that's quite a good inspiration, if you like.
Definitely, and it's one thing that really inspires me about things like CyberFirst is to see young women, you know, like yourselves coming through, and makes me think that actually the number of women is just going to keep growing in the industry. Gurpreet, is there anyone in particular that inspires you, or if not a person, a particular sort of technology or anything?
Well, I do remember that my first inspiration probably came from when we went on a school trip to Bletchley Park and seeing like just how many, because obviously when you think of something like the war, a lot of the stereotypes we were told were that women were at home supporting men who are on the front line, and just seeing how many women contributed to helping crack the encryptions and everything from the war in Bletchley Park, that really inspired me a lot to like see my place in the future in this industry. But also some individuals that I have kind of identified were people like Magda Chelly and Tyler Cohen-Wood. Magda Chelly, she founded Women in Cyber, and she was a real inspiration to me when I was studying at A-level computer science, because it just really showed me what a woman can do, despite the fact that we represent just about 10% of the workforce. And Tyler Cohen-Wood, she kind of inspires me to look at my path that I'm going to go on as an adult in this industry, because she worked with the US authorities and aided many departments of law enforcement as a senior intelligence officer. And being this is a policing webinar, I would really like to go into something that helps that kind of industry, but within the UK.
Brilliant, thank you. I completely agree about Bletchley Park, both you and Daisy referenced, and if anyone hasn't had a chance to visit or read about it, then highly recommended when it's suitable to do so. And I know those women that you've referenced would be delighted to know that they've inspired you. Adam, is there anyone in particular that's inspired you? Or again, if it's not people, is there any kind of technology that's inspired you?
I'd say there's a few. One would be Brian Krebs, the author of Krebs on Security. I think it's quite remarkable the work he's done to tackle cybercrime groups and operations on his blog, even though his background is in international studies. And the fact that he started later in life into cybersecurity after his computer was infected by a worm, which is a bit amusing, but it shows if you apply yourself, no matter what background you have, you can make a difference. And I think he won an award lately for his blog Best Representing the Industry. So I think it's a good example that everyone is welcome in there if you apply yourself.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely great answer. And yeah, no matter your background, you can make a difference. It's so true. So when you look sort of forward to your careers, what skills are you kind of really looking forward to bringing to the industry? And I will go back to Gurpreet for this one, please.
For me, I think the skills I'm really looking forward to bringing to the industry is just is fully exploring the power of new age technology and see how far we can push it to reduce cybercrime. And I think that part of these, I think the skills that I am really looking forward to bringing are the ones that I can fully develop underneath the mentoring of a company, or in fact any individuals in the industry, because I think that like the one thing to remember about this industry is it's not just about what you bring, it's also about what you want to achieve, what you want to learn, and what you want to develop. But I am really looking to make a real impact with some meaningful work, and as we push further into the digital age.
Excellent. And how about you, Daisy?
Yeah, so similar to Capri, I just want to bring like a fresh mindset and a fresh skill set to wherever I do end up working in the future. And like, because like I have said, I'm studying forensics. If I was to go into a security firm, I'd like to think I'd be able to bring some of my forensic mindset with me, which would benefit both myself and the company. And also I found during my placement that the younger generation does offer like a different type of knowledge to maybe the older generation, which they've obviously got a lot more experience than I do and the rest of us. But I think, especially when it comes to like social media platforms, because most people use Facebook, use Twitter, use LinkedIn, and yeah, they're great platforms, but most of the crime as well nowadays, especially in the younger generation, is on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and majority of the older generation don't tend to venture onto those platforms. And so, especially like in forensic investigations, it's important to have a knowledge behind the applications, because the answers to like the investigations aren't always obvious to the eye, and so it requires further digging. And so by the younger generation getting more involved, they're able to offer that, and so you're not missing smaller bits of evidence, if you like.
Definitely, that's a really good point. I think you're absolutely right that some of us in the older generation don't keep track necessarily of what platforms everyone's using, and even in general, I think whenever you're looking at a problem or an issue, having diversity in terms of the team means that people look from different perspectives and think about challenges and problems differently. And for you, Adam, what skills are you sort of looking forward to bringing to the industry or to your work in future?
It's much the same as the other two panelists, I'd say. I think you have to be adaptable and open to change. And there is a sort of cultural divide between the age groups, so it helps to have a good understanding of that. And to have a broad understanding of cyber too, so that you understand the wider range of issues and you investigate maybe the behavioral side of it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you've all obviously had great achievement becoming CyberFirst students. Beyond that, I'm really interested in what's made you feel really proud, a great day, a great achievement, something that you felt really chuffed about in terms of your sort of career so far. Gurpreet, can I ask you what it is that it's been sort of your biggest, best achievement so far?
I think my best achievement so far, because as I am in the newest cohort of the bursary scheme, I have significantly less experience compared to some of the other panelists maybe, but for me probably it's just now starting out in some virtual internships that I am taking on with some companies, and I think that for me has made me really proud of how I'm getting on and how I'm building my experience. And it's also like every day when I'm taking on new tasks from these virtual internships and everything, they're really inspiring me to just continue moving forward and reminding me that this is a good industry that I have chosen, and that there's always some kind of way to gain more experience no matter what age you are, no matter like what field you're already maybe in, or whatever your life, like, or whatever, anything, wherever you are in life, it's just it's great.
Absolutely true. Very well said. And how about for you, Adam? What would you say is your sort of biggest, best achievement so far?
I'd say it's the internship I have this summer in spite of COVID, but I'm not allowed to say much about the placement, so I'm not too sure what to say for this question.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's great. And it's great you're able to sort of still take part in the internship despite COVID, and the fact that we're experiencing this at the minute shows the need for resilience in organisations and in individuals. I won't put you on the spot by asking for any more. Instead, I'll turn to Daisy.
Yeah, so I think the other two panelists have obviously indicated how important and how successful the placements on the scheme are, and how valuable they are to us to gain experience when we graduate. And so, like the other two, my biggest achievement probably is my successful placement that I've done for the past nearly a year now, and I'm coming towards the end of it, and I couldn't imagine graduating without it, really, because the opportunities it's given me, and just the sheer knowledge I've gained, even just on a daily basis, I'm always learning. And so I think, because obviously being in university, it's one thing, going to lectures, learning on like hands-on and mock scenes kind of thing, but it can never prepare you for like the real life situations. And so I think having such a successful year, it has proved to me that it is probably the right industry for me to go in, hopefully. And it's it's just proved that I can kind of do it, kind of thing. And I think coming onto the scheme, because there's so many people on the scheme and you get to meet a few of them at like events, I think when I first joined it was quite daunting, because I had that kind of self-doubt that maybe I wasn't as knowledgeable as the others, and especially being a woman as well, you're so like with in the minority. And so I think by doing this again, it's proved that okay, I do deserve my place on the scheme, and hopefully I can go on to really good things upon graduation because of it.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And I can say without a doubt, you absolutely deserve your place there. It's unfortunate in cybersecurity that many of us can feel that kind of imposter syndrome. And I think it's partly because this industry is so broad and so deep, like, Adam said earlier, and that's great. But it means there's so much to learn. So you can always feel like, obviously you don't know everything. So unfortunately that can be a normal feeling. But the best advice I can give with that kind of feeling is to use it to drive you forward, to want to learn more, without it sort of driving you to the point of distraction, where you overwork. So we've talked a little bit about the value of internships. So the message that I got from you all is kind of having those internships, having those placements is really, really valuable. So it seems like that is something that you see as a benefit from an organisation. And so I wonder if I could ask you, if you're thinking about sort of a future employer, and maybe not just for you, but for your peers as well, what are some of the things that you would look for in a future employer, in an organisation that would sort of attract you? And that might be the type of work, it might be the culture, it might be the priorities of the organization. It'd be great to know what actually you think your generation is looking for from an employer. And I'm going to ask Adam first.
A good question. I'd say I'd value active investment into professional development of the workforce, and your technical skills and your soft skills, because I feel that's overlooked. So maybe communication, leadership, management. To add to that, I think it's important to have an employer that values the health of its staff. You said about generational problems, but a lot of them don't have support networks for those that might be struggling with cultural issues or mental health, which I think affects 1 in 6 people in the workplace. But I think some of the relevant problems now I'd be looking for in an employer. Excellent.
And that's really helpful and really sort of really important things, and actually practical things that if any employers are kind of watching this, and that's what you should be going away and looking at, actually how you support your workforce and the people that you want to join you. And Gurpreet, how about you? What is it you would look for from a future employer? What do you think matters to your generation?
I think everything that Adam said is definitely very true. And for me, what I value most is probably things like promotion, growth opportunities, because I'd like to see where my career can go and how it can advance. The work environment and the culture is very, very important to me, just because right now in the younger generation, there is a huge focus on how mental health affects us, no matter what industry you're in. So that stereotype of kids sitting in a dark room with hoodies on behind a computer screen. I'd really like to get rid of that stereotype and have it seem that the workplace can be a great place to engage in a lot of activities. This could also mean stuff like potential training programs. I know that I got involved in computer science and technology quite young, and when I was going, every year when I was in school, I was trying to figure out what kind of career I would like to go for, and obviously you change your mind. But something like technology never really interested me until I became a bit older, and I think that was because back then there wasn't a lot of focus on how kids can actually get into something that was seen as quite an adult thing. So having potential training programs, anything that's kind of geared towards children, stimulating them, like that would be really helpful. And also I think ethical standards are very important to me in a company, just because I know that legislation around the internet and everything like that is very sort of vague sometimes, because there's only so much you can put a policy on almost. But I think for me, I just need to know that everything I'm doing in a professional sense is very reliable, trustworthy, and yeah, things like that.
Great, yeah, excellent answer. And a lot of that really comes back to culture, doesn't it? The culture of an organisation. Do they support the workforce in the widest sense? So in terms of opportunities, really important, in terms of room for growth, and also in terms of mental health. And is it the kind of organisation, like you say, that is ethical in every sense of the word, from professional standards through to looking after the people that are working there? And Daisy, do you have any points to add in terms of what you think your generation is looking for in an employer?
Yeah, I'm really glad Adam did mention mental health, sorry. Just because, especially with the line of work that my placement's in, we sometimes have to deal with stuff which not everyone has to do in their jobs, and you're not expected to do it. And obviously that's a choice I've made. I want to go into that line of work, so I don't have any complaints from that point of view. But I think having support there for your mental health is really crucial, and I'm thankful that my placement does offer that kind of support. But I am aware that's not obviously available in every company, and so I think once I graduate, that will be something I will be looking for in an employer. And I think the other two have like touched on it as well, but just the willing to invest in their employees, because it's all well and good them employing you and you're working for them, but your skill set and your knowledge shouldn't just stop there, because you don't know what the future might hold. And it's just wanting to benefit yourself as well. You need to think about yourself more than the employer maybe sometimes, because you're still a person at the end of the day. You don't know what your circumstances are going to change, and so it's really important, especially in this industry as well, with everything always changing, especially in regards to like mobile phones. It's really important to keep like in touch basically with the industry. And so I think continuously wanting them for employees to go on training sessions and funding for that. Obviously, I'm aware that's not always possible with some employees, depending on their size and everything. But I think that's definitely one of the selling points as well. They want to invest in you.
Absolutely. And I think for an organisation to recognise that investing in the people is investing in the organisation. Of course, it's investing in those individuals and giving them the best chance at opportunities in future, but it's also investing in the organisation as a whole. And, you know, treating people well and, you know, training them up. So, of course, they could go on to do other things and may well do, but treating them well so that maybe actually they enjoy it so much and they value the culture so much that they decide to stay. So great answers, and I think really helpful answers if any organisations are watching and wondering actually what can we do to reach out to the next generation. So in terms of that, how do you then sort of look at organisations and decide if it's for you? How do you do your research on an organisation to decide actually do you want to work for it, and how do you try and identify whether it's the kind of place that might represent some of those things that you're looking for? And I'll go to Gurpreet for this first of all.
Well, there's a lot of resources out there that I use. Personally, I always look for news articles, anything that might tell me a bit about the company's background, the people who work for it. If I have access, or if I'm able to gain access to people who have had direct experience with the company, maybe employees, then I would always ask them questions, make sure I know exactly what is being done at this company, my place that could potentially be within this company. And then also, if companies have a social media presence, it's always really helpful to look at things like LinkedIn or forums like Quora, where people ask questions about it that you maybe have for yourself, and even things like Instagram, because a lot of companies are trying to become tech savvy and try and gain an audience and traction through big social media platforms like that. So I think that is really helpful for me.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. Adam, do you look at social media? Do you look at what organizations are kind of posting? Is that one tool that you use to research potential future employers?
Yeah, definitely. I obviously check the company website, look for any publications they have or they're mentioned in. And company review sites are good. Glassdoor or Rate My Placement. I think Gurpreet said pretty much all of them, which you can look for now. But they're all solid ones, yeah, to find about them.
So if you look at social media, and I'm going to ask Daisy this as a sort of follow-up, if you look at social media, Daisy, for an organisation, what do you look for? What kind of things do you want to see from an organisation on social media? What would make you think that could be a good place to work?
So I think Gurpreet mentioned it, but seeing them like reach out on platforms like Instagram is always a good indication to me, because like I tend to use like LinkedIn and Twitter, but seeing them on Instagram and even Snapchat, because you can advertise on there as well, it makes them seem not so daunting and a bit more on your level, especially to the younger generation, because yes, LinkedIn and Twitter are great, but it tends to be all a bit too professional sometimes. And so when you're looking for an employer, when you're graduating and stuff, you don't want it to be, I mean, some people might do, but you don't want it to be too much of a big step and think you're like in too deep. And so when they advertise on Instagram, they're looking presumably for the younger generation as well, not just for people with tons of experience. So I think that for me would be a big selling point for an employer. But I think in general terms, when looking for a company, I tend to also reach out to like my peers on my course as well, and also those also on the bursary scheme, because we're all in the same boat. We're all looking for placements, all looking for graduate positions, and some are further ahead in the scheme than others. And so they obviously got first-hand experience with some companies. So I do tend to reach out to them, see what their opinions are on the company. And most of the time it's like amazing feedback. So I'm like, great, yeah. But it's always good to get like a sort of a head start kind of thing, and to know what the company is going to be like, so you don't go into it completely blind as to what they're like.
Absolutely, great point. I think networks can be really valuable for that, is you can find out, does anyone have sort of first-hand experience? And I love your point that actually the platforms, the social media platforms that the organization is on can speak for itself, you know, regardless of necessarily what they're posting. Just being on something like Instagram or Snapchat shows that actually you're looking for a younger generation. That's a really interesting point, and something that actually people might not be thinking about that much. So at this point, I'm going to ask Richard if we've got any questions from the viewers. If not, I've got a bunch that I still want to ask, but I feel like I should give the chance to see if we've got any questions coming in from the viewers.
We've got quite a few questions coming in. So for people watching, go down the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A button there, and that's where all the questions can be typed. Vote the ones you like as well, and that will push them further on up the screen. But I have got a couple that I'd like to ask. So one's in relation to the panelists' soft skills, and whether they felt that at any point their soft skills have actually been more important to them than their technical knowledge. And then leading on from that, we've had an inquiry as to someone who's really interested in the whole human side of things, but doesn't have that technical background? And do they feel that there's any future in the industry for them?
Great questions. I love those. Okay, so we'll start. I think it really starts nicely to go on to the soft skills one. I tend to call them professional skills rather than soft skills, because soft skills implies they're easy, and really they're quite hard. So I'm going to call them professional skills, if I may. And I'm going to start with Adam and ask you, Adam, about sort of the soft professional skills that you've developed, and you know, whether you think they've actually been beneficial and how they've been beneficial.
I find them more important than the technical skills a lot of the time. You know, you can go to an interview and you prepare a lot of technical content and you don't get asked that much on that content. It's usually your soft skills, how you communicate, how you present things, your confidence. You know, they're all things I need to work on. I don't think it's taught that well in some universities to build you up for that. But it's definitely an area that needs improving and people should focus on. And I think
Adam, carry on.
One of the main things is being able to articulate complex subjects to the level of the listener too. I think that's one of the hardest soft skills you may have. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll let you in on a secret, is that we all still need to develop those. I don't think that's something that's ever done, or you know, that someone ever feels like, yeah, tick that box, done it. It's something that is a constant learning experience throughout life, I reckon. Gurpreet, how about you?
I always feel that professional skills are very important, even if there is a technical background to, say, a certain type of job or anything. But a lot of tech companies have a huge producer consumer focus, so you need to be able to communicate and talk to others about your opinions and about their opinions, and how you can build on each other's opinions to build a foundation for what you both want. Technical backgrounds are definitely a bonus, but they're also, but the best thing about technology is that there's so many resources out there to learn things such as programming, coding, anything like that. But professional skills, they're very important in order to be able to actually talk to people, listen to them, understand what they would like, because it's all well and good having the technical background, but without the professional skills, the technical background is useless.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Daisy, do you think that there could be more support in developing professional skills at different levels? And what would you find beneficial from that regard?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's all about getting the balance right, really, because going through university, they do emphasize like the technical skills more, which is understandable, because especially in this industry, you can't really go into a workplace with just professional skills. You do need a bit of technical, which, I mean, you can always build your technical skills up as well, but it's obviously an advantage if you do have technical skills. But I think majority of my friends at university, they tend to be studying social sciences, and so for them professional skills tend to come a bit more naturally to them rather than me and other people on my course. And I think it goes back to the stereotype of people in cyber sat in a dark room with a hoodie on, don't socialize, and that's not the case for most people. And so I think having that sort of support going through university, and even prior to that, I think it all does stem from like your school days and going through college and sixth form. I think it's important to always emphasize on professional skills and don't just introduce it at the last stage, because definitely for me going into my placement, it's really valuable to have technical skills, but most of the time you're there to learn more technical skills, so that's not mainly like the main point of your placement. And so going suddenly into a workplace environment, it's important to be able to get on with your peers and feel like you can go to them for support, and especially like public speaking and stuff, because I'm sure most people going into cyber wouldn't even think they'd have to do something like this even, and so suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And don't get me wrong, I was a bit like that this time last week. But I think definitely it needs to be something that is more like approachable for lecturers and stuff to come across to their students and highlight that it is something they're going to have to deal with going into the sector, and that regardless what area you go into, it's something you're going to have to be faced with. And so for the early you start, I think it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Definitely. So you've really spoken sort of about the importance of professional skills regardless of the role. And the second question we had that Richard fed through to us was around somebody who is more interested on working on the human side. And this is something really close to my heart. That's what I do. I work with people, and I've always worked on awareness, behaviour and culture in cybersecurity. I studied social sciences for my background. And so I was interested in your perspectives on this as well. So I'd like to ask Gurpreet kind of how much that has come through in terms of the opportunities on the human side. Is that something you hear much about? Is that something you're familiar with? Or do you think the technical side and the opportunities there are given more emphasis?
I think that until you start actually looking at maybe like jobs, placements, internships, anything, you don't really know the depth of things that there is available to you. For example, for me, I would personally prefer something that's a bit more technical, just because I like that kind of challenging thing for my mind. But a lot of my peers at university are looking at going into the human side of it. And I remember some of them said that they had no experience of programming, or they had very limited experience, and they thought that the human side was the only place they'd be able to go into. But they've actually realized that it requires both an understanding of the technical and of the human. And the human side is a vast place. Like there's very many companies out there who offer placements, anything like that, that cater towards that kind of thing. So it's definitely a huge area to look at, but it's nothing that's I think that it's very popular, definitely, and it can be quite competitive to get into something like that. But like I said, before, technology touches on everything. You will find that's why there's so many like tech experience, work placements, anything like that, because it's everywhere. So no matter what sector you're looking to go into, there is something there for you.
Absolutely, very true. And Richard, you said there were some more questions. So what else do we have from the viewers?
Yeah, there's some questions particularly directed to our panelists' experience of the university themselves. How have they found it? Are they enjoying it? What are they finding difficult? How has it gone this year? How are their exams going? Things like that.
Great questions. So, Adam, can I ask you to reflect on your university experience and how it's going, how this year's going for you?
Sure. Say it's gone well. It's been a lot of change up because of COVID. Exams have been cancelled, or we've got alternative exams online. I'm just a second year student, so there's been nothing difficult yet. But yeah, I can't give any complaints at the moment.
Sure, and with all the changes, obviously you said with COVID, must be changing things an awful lot, like you say, with exams being cancelled or going online. How much of a challenge is that?
In honesty, I find it easier this way. I find it more accessible. You can work in your own time. There's less pressure, but people might disagree with that. People might think differently.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's a really good point that actually it can be, you can do it maybe more at your own pace. Daisy, is that something you agree with, or have the changes been more of a challenge?
So I'm not currently studying at university at the moment. I'm on my year out, but I know from my peers who are studying and graduating this year, it has impacted them quite a bit. But the university has been really understanding. They've been able to get remote access, so they're still able to access all of the software we were in the labs, but from home. But I think university has really benefited me, especially in this industry, because there's loads of apprenticeship schemes and stuff which you can get into it in that way, and that's great if that's for you. But I think for me, I prefer the academic route of going to university and having it's not just about the course and the study side of it, it's just the social side of it as well. Just meeting new people and just always the opportunities that university does give you as well. Like your lecturers are there to help you, and they're always try and find placements and stuff for you. But yeah, I think it's important to realise as well, if you are like debating if you go to university, especially doing something like this, it does cover a lot of the same subjects across all of a cyber course, especially for my university anyway. So if you are undecided, but you want to be in cyber, but you're not sure what aspect, the majority of universities do the same modules for the first year. So you've got like a year safety barrier, if you like, to then realise if it's not for you, then you can change course easily enough. But it's also important to realise that it might just not be for you. If you really are not sure about going to university, but you feel like you have to, it's not the only route. And if it's not for you, it's not for you at the end of the day, really.
Very true. There's so many different routes to take, and university, you're right, great to be able to kind of dip your toe in and try different things. And such a good point, probably particularly for people who are, before going to university, thinking about it, wondering about what to do, that actually it's not set in stone. You can start something, you can change it, and you can change your career path even, after university, decades after, nothing's set in stone. Gurpreet, how's your university experience?
Well, I am a first year student, so I really have pretty much little to no experience in university right now. But for me, I think that I found the transition to everything online a lot easier than some of my other peers who are studying degrees that are more like in person, whereas we were pretty much all online through labs. Our lectures were recorded, things like that. So it has been okay. A little bit of an adjustment, all things considered, with the circumstances, but nothing too bad. And I think that it's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And Richard, what other questions do we have?
Yeah, so we've heard about from the panelists about the positives and their hopes for the future, but do they have any concerns or worries about the future of cybersecurity or technology in general?
Great question. I will come to Adam first off with that one, please.
Loaded question.
No, that's fine. So basically, we've talked about the positives, we've all been very positive, and talked about the things, that you like, that you enjoy, that you feel hopeful about. But are there any things about the future of cybersecurity that worry you, or that you think are kind of particularly challenging?
There's parts of cyber in general that worry me about the organised crime and the way it's spreading, people are manipulating people with it, how it can change society. In regards to cybersecurity industry, I don't really have anything that I'm worried about at the moment, but that could be because I haven't researched any dark sides of it.
And in terms of the things that you worry about with cybersecurity, that you touched upon, obviously, the proliferation of cybercrime, is that something that, like keeps you awake at night, that you really worry about? Or is that something that kind of motivates you to actually be in this industry and make a difference?
It's definitely a motivation to keep on your toes, because everyone else is learning and investing in people to commit crime. So you need to do that yourself. And I had a thought in my head a minute ago, which is gone. So I can't elaborate on that, sorry.
It happens. It'll come back to you, at the worst time.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll quickly turn to Daisy. I'll ask for your thoughts on kind of anything that worries you, concerns you about the future of cybersecurity or the cybersecurity industry. And then we'll see if there's any more questions. So Daisy, what do you think about that question, about worries or concerns?
So I think my main concern at the moment is just getting a job after graduation, because I think that's a generic thing across all students upon graduation. But this scheme has helped reassure me on that sense, because just the opportunities it offers once you graduate. So I'm glad I've got that kind of reassurance behind me. But I obviously still need to put the work in, and things might change. But I think, especially for my placement this year, it has highlighted to me how much cyber is involved in just day-to-day workings really, and the extent that people will use cyber to manipulate and target vulnerable people, and it's really maybe have like a different outlook on society really, because of course if you say cyber in relation to crime, people think of hacking, viruses, which is a massive part of it, but they're not so aware of like phishing attacks, and even just how it can be used in historical crimes, and I think although it's great that the industry is growing in that sort of sense, but it's kind of worrying that I don't think it's ever going to stop, and so from the crime sense that's quite worrying, because the more and more people who are going to be using digital devices and mobile phones, the crime's just going to spiral out of control eventually. So it's just a matter of keeping up to date with the criminals and being aware of their thinking behind attacks, and just staying up to date and always being one step, or attempt to be one step ahead of them, but close as that is it possible really.
Great, yeah, very well said. Richard, did we have another question you wanted to add?
Yeah, so probably the final one from us, just for anyone that hasn't had their question answered or still wants to ask questions, please keep them coming through and we'll try and get some answered for you after the session as well. So just to finish off then from me, we have kind of two. The first one is a nice simple one. What age did you become interested in technology? And the second one, I'm going to change it slightly, but if you could give one sort of book or website or source of information to anyone looking to learn more about cyber, what would that be?
Brilliant questions. So very quickly, I would like you to all just say the age that you became interested, and then we'll move on to the second one. So Adam, how old were you?
I have no idea.
It's been
As long as I can remember, yeah.
As long as you can remember, great answer. Yeah. How about you, Gurpreet?
I think it was around 12.
Excellent. And Daisy?
I was making blogs from like the age of below 10 maybe, but I think definitely in this like area, probably 15, 16 when I was choosing my GCSEs and stuff. That's when it really became apparent I wanted to do it.
Cool. Wow, doing blogs before you were 10. That's amazing. And interesting because all different ages from all of you. And then we had the other question. And again, if we can keep it brief, that would be fab. I would love to know, so as Richard said, one recommendation, book, website, blog, whatever it is. And I'd also like, if you can quickly add to that, is that the medium you prefer? So what do you prefer? Do you prefer videos? Do you prefer books? Do you prefer talks? What is it? And I'll go to Daisy again, please.
I tend to often refer to like magazines, computer magazines, because I think they kind of get overlooked a bit. And my granddad bulk buys at me and I've got a whole pile to catch up on. But I think they can really offer good resources, and it's a nice change from just being on your phone or your laptop. It's quite nice just to read a magazine.
That's so true. Well done, Grandad. Is there one magazine in particular, or is it kind of take a look and see which ones you like?
It's just whatever catches my eye when I'm in the shop, really. And if it's got like a catching headline, then I probably will go ahead and buy it. But yeah, I go for my standard ones. But yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Daisy. And how about you, Gurpreet? What's your one sort of recommendation as a resource for younger people wanting to get into the industry?
I think for me, it was watching TED Talks or like any kind of talks, podcasts, stuff like that. When I was trying to do my GCSEs and A-levels, just because they really opened up this whole new world I'd never seen before. For me, technology was pretty much playing games, Wikipedia, Googling, stuff like that. And like seeing all of these ideas that just came into my head, it really helped to like make me think about what the future of cyber could become and how we can help it get there.
Awesome. And is there one TED Talk in particular, or is it just them in general kind of inspiring you?
Them in general, really. There isn't really one TED Talk because they all have so many fascinating ideas to think about.
So true. Great answer. And how about you, Adam? What would be your one sort of resource recommendation?
I suppose it's multifaceted. It's a community on Reddit called, the abbreviation is NetSec, so Network Security. But they have loads of advice, people who want to get into that career of cybersecurity. There's loads of resources in their wiki. So in general, it's a good broad perspective of everything.
Excellent, great answer, and all different answers again. So I think that's really helpful. You know, whatever your preferred learning style is, there's different resources out there, so many resources, which is fantastic. So we are bang on time, and that's been brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed today. We've heard about so many things from the panelists, you know, the value of technical skills and of professional skills. I think the value of internships and of placements has really come through strongly. So something for organisations to think about. People spoke about how they were drawn to security for the challenge, for making a difference, because they can see there's investment in the sector and it's growing, and the opportunities that are associated with those. The panelists spoke about the importance of the culture of organisations that they may want to work for, and how important it is that those organisations show they're actively investing in professional development, in the health and the well-being, and in taking an ethical approach. So really great, fantastic points. A couple of quotes that really stood out to me from the panelists. I think you all spoke about the fact that cybersecurity touches everyone and everything, and if you work in the industry, you can really make a difference then on people's lives. And that no matter your background, you can make a difference, and you can actually achieve and have a positive impact in cybersecurity. So that time's gone really fast. I want to thank the panelists, Daisy, Gurpreet and Adam, so much for taking time and sharing your insights. It's been really wonderful. Thank you to CyberFirst, to Tesco and to Griffin, of course, for making this possible. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in, and now it's just down to me to hand over to Richard.
Yeah, thank you. It was a fantastic session. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. And as I said before, if you didn't get your question answered, we'll do our best to get that answered by the panelists, and then you'll receive a follow-up email with details of where you can find that answer afterwards. When this session does close down in the next few minutes, you will be sent through to a request for a feedback form. Everyone hates doing feedback. I know it's only a few questions. And this is part of a series, and we'd love to do another one like this. So please let us know whether it worked, what you would improve in the future, so that we can work towards that. Now, as I said again, this is part of a series, so I'm just going to show you how to log on to the next one or to find out more information about the next one. So you can either go to, if you are on LinkedIn, go to the CyberGriffin website, and every single one, no matter from where around the country, we're going to put the details on there. Or you can go to Eventbrite, and within the search, just type in National Policing. That will bring you up to, for some reason, a randomized list, not in any particular order. So if you click onto any one of those with the National Policing sign, and then once you go onto the booking sheet, you can actually scroll down to the National Policing Protect Network, and here it will actually give you them all in order. So we can see that our next one is about applied incident response, which is next Thursday. We normally do them on Mondays and Thursdays, but obviously Monday's a bank holiday. And from 2 till 3, you can see that it's our East Midlands Special Operations Unit are going to be bringing you that webinar. So log on to that one as well. But as Dr. Jessica Parker said, thank you so much to everyone that was involved today. It was fantastic. Thanks to Keith. He was answering loads of questions behind the scene as well. And also someone that couldn't make it here, but thanks to Alicia Chambers for helping this all get set up from Tesco's. And obviously all our panelists and everyone that joined in as well and got involved. It was a fantastic session. And I hope we see you all at the next one. So have a great day. Goodbye.